Neanderthals went extinct about 28,000 years ago. But what if they hadn't? If they were still here today, what would we make of them? This question was posed by American scientists in the late 1950s. They felt Neanderthal man had been demonized for too long. He was just like us, they claimed. Give him a bath and some modern clothes, and he would pass unnoticed on the New York subway.
During the 1950s and 60s, there's an anti-racist movement afoot, and people are trying to show that different human races are really not very different from each other. And when you start thinking about the huge diversity between Australians, Africans, Europeans, that's a range of diversity that Neanderthals are not very far from.
The traditional view was that Neanderthal man was an inferior species, an evolutionary dead end. Now scientists wanted to stress how similar Neanderthals and modern humans really were. So similar that perhaps they were really one and the same species. Perhaps we evolved directly from them.
The idea that Neanderthals are somehow part of our diversity and we're all one human family, that really builds. And in the 1980s, that's sort of the dominant paradigm until the Eve theory came along.
The Eve theory was the big genetic story of 1987. Researchers from UC Berkeley had managed to sequence human mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondria are tiny packages of chemical energy inside a living cell. And in each of them is a small loop of DNA with just 37 genes. Analyzing this DNA in a cross-section of different people, the researchers claimed to have traced the ancestry of our species back to a single source. A woman who lived in Africa 200,000 years ago. They called her Eve, as if she were the mother of us all.
The big surprise of the results was that we all came from a relatively small group of people in Africa, and everybody on Earth descended from them, and even furthermore, that we're relatively young.
Some 60,000 years ago, we started migrating out of Africa and took over the world. For the first time, it was possible to produce an accurate family tree of the entire human race, a progression of different species unfolding over millions of years. And at the top of the tree, our species, Homo sapiens, distinct and separate from all those that had come before. The new genetic evidence gave support to a new theory of human evolution, known as out of Africa. The idea is that Homo sapiens, modern humans, evolved in a small corner of East Africa some 200,000 years ago. Over time, the population grew. Modern humans left Africa and started colonizing the world. And wherever they ran into ancient humans, they didn't mix with them, they replaced them. In Europe, this meant the replacement of every Neanderthal. According to the out of Africa theory, modern humans arrived in Europe about 40,000 years ago and took over the continent. It may have taken time, perhaps 12,000 years. But there was something inherently superior about modern humans that gave them, us, a competitive edge.
Once you posit that there's a replacement of people, it's sort of a nice way of saying that hey, these ancient people were annihilated. They're gone. They're not included in the ancestry of later populations.
The Neanderthals would have retreated into remote corners of the continent, heading away from the modern humans, until there was nowhere left to go. Some of the last Neanderthal enclaves were on the Atlantic coast of Portugal, but eventually, even here, modern humans found them.
This is the Atlantic. As soon as you get here, there's nowhere else to go. It's just the end of the world from a European perspective. Soon after, we recorded their presence in this place. They're no more.
And here, the Neanderthal story may have ended, their fate sealed, were it not for a remarkable discovery by Portuguese archaeologists, the skeleton of a 4-year-old child who has forced us to think again.